Dr. Malone, Friday afternoon, March 27th. It's around 5:22 or so. Downtown Pensacola again is a little bit of a ghost town for a Friday afternoon. The virus seems to be headed up still. It seems like there's an increase in cases in the bigger cities, and I don't think it's leveling off anywhere in this country. Locally, I think the same thing is true on a different scale. I haven't looked at the figures, but I wanted you to bring us up to speed on what's going on locally with the figures, both in the city and the state.
Yeah. So the 7 p.m. Eastern release just came out actually not too long ago. And so currently in the state of Florida, there's 3198 cases that are reporting as positive tests. In Escambia County, we're now to 28. Yesterday at this time, we were at 20. So the number does keep going up, as you said. And I think part of that is a result of tests that are coming back that were done a matter of days ago. So it's not happening today. It's I guess with a little bit of a science background, it's frustrating knowing that you're getting data from that long ago. Hopefully that shifts once we start seeing some different test modalities come out. Anyhow, statewide, I've mentioned this the past couple of nights, so we're looking at 8.5% positive or percentage of positive tests that are coming back for all that are being tested. And I think the last couple of days here, we've been about 7% in the county, and we're still hanging between 7 and 8%, depending on how you do the math, if you include the pending tests or not. So not a whole lot of change there. Also locally, the only other thing that caught my attention is something that you and I had mentioned the other night when we were speaking, and that was the concern where, you sit there and look at the maps, and you look at the map of Florida, and, that boundary to our west is not, it's not a wall, and so you worry about everything to our east. Well, to our west is just as much, and you had mentioned the New Orleans, I guess, blow up, if you will, for lack of a better term, and it was good to see, I guess, at least the concern being expressed on a governmental level, where perhaps there's going to be some sort of limitation or screening on the highway. Actually, it sounds like on I-10, which alleviates some concern here.
I didn't hear that. They're going to stop people on I-10 and test them.
The proposal that I saw, and don't quote me directly, but the proposal that I saw was that there would be authority granted to the Highway Patrol and other law enforcement to pull over people and to screen them, and to basically enforce some sort of, quarantine, like turn around and go home and quarantine kind of stuff. Because think of it, if you were in New Orleans, if you were living in a suburb of New Orleans and you were some functional cog that was, worried about the health of your family or trying to move somewhere else to telecommute, that you'd say, well, I'm going to head away from New Orleans. And it's kind of like when New Orleans has a hurricane, where do all the New Orleans people end up? Pensacola Beach, the Gulf Shores. So I think they're thinking that a similar mindset might be in place for people from New Orleans, saying, hey man,
how are they going to enforce that? I haven't heard about this. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. They're going to pull over cars that have Louisiana plates and say, where are you going?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand all the logistics, so I'm not an authority on it at all. I've just read some of the news releases, and it sounds like the county contacted the governor and expressed this concern, and it was trying to keep the panhandle as limited in exposure as possible from any people that are fleeing. So that to me it's not medical, it's not scientific, it's just astounding to think of something like that on that level.
Right. So, I wasn't prepared to even speak on it, but it sounds more legal than medical for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So any new stuff? Anytime I hear President Trump backpedaling on anything he says, I start thinking, okay, well, there must be something that's getting ready to come out that undercuts something he said. And he was backpedaling on the Z-Pack with what is it? The medicine, yes.
Yeah, the hydroxychloroquine. Yeah.
He was backpedaling on that yesterday, last night on the Hannity show, and then I noticed there was a study that was released either last night or this morning from Chinese officials that had done a test with those two medications that did not suggest it was effective. Did you see that?
I did, and I think there's a couple of different studies out there now. So the initial study that came out last week was pretty definitive that the viral loads on these people dropped pretty quickly, and it was claiming to have been peer reviewed. So that's what a lot of that initial news came from. And I guess medically speaking, you're looking at two drugs that are proven and are, for the most part, are relatively safe. So it's not like you're trying, carpet cleaner on these people.
Right.
This is something that it makes sense to say, let's test this. So there are some virology labs that are basically testing hundreds of drugs against these strains, and these people are like in spacesuits if you see them, and they're dealing directly with the virus and seeing what can attack this virus closely. And those are two of the drugs out of like hundreds in the panel. As far as the
So,
backpedaling, go
yeah.
ahead.
So
So
what the climate issue is another thing that keeps coming up. People, oh, it's going to get hotter. I mean, it was hot today
Yep.
here, and fortunately, you can quarantine yourself and still go out in the sun, which is nice, right? I guess it's one nice thing
Yeah.
about this. But somebody was saying to me that they're still having issues in some of the tropical areas with this virus spreading. Do you know anything new about that? Whether the heat has an effect on this virus or not?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually had a couple of studies that I pulled up today. There are some studies that are coming out from some other areas that have been impacted before we have, and there's suggestion that just looking at the virus itself and its ability to survive for every basically 1 degree Celsius, or there's a certain percentage of humidity, the transmissibility drops down pretty quickly. So those numbers you're hearing, those R values, where one person, the R value of 2, that means one person can infect 2 people. You ideally want it to get less than 1. So they're looking to see those R values dropping, and looking at only temperature or humidity, the R values do drop. However, if you talk to some experts on infectious disease in the United States, the idea of seasonality, which is what they term this, it includes the changes in the climate, but it also includes a bunch of other things like changes in human behavior, there's changes in the
Right.
host's immune system when the summer months are around, and then depletion of susceptible hosts. I'm reading off the list that they published, other things they look at.
So
So
more than just that factor.
Yeah, and in years past, I get people equate this to the flu, and they say, well, we don't have the flu in the summer. And there's a lot of things that happen differently in the summer, such as gatherings like in schools and daycares and things like that, and the way people travel, the way people conduct their day-to-day activities as far as outdoor stuff. So there's more to it than just the temperature. But the one glimmer of hope is that for that 1 degree Celsius that they described, that R value drops a little bit. That's a pretty, even though it's like a 0.5 drop, it's a significant number to look at, meaning one person isn't going to infect 2 people or 3 people. It's going to infect
But if I'm
1.5.
hearing you, it doesn't kill the virus. It makes it less viable. So it can't
Yes.
last as long on surfaces. It can't go as far in the air when you sneeze.
Yep.
It's just the motility of the virus, I guess, itself is lessened.
Yeah. So humid air, for instance, think about it. It's kind of like trying to throw a baseball underwater. The ball's not going to go anywhere. But if you throw it in the air, it's going to go far away. So the same thing with the virus. When there's more humidity in the air, the virus or the particles can't travel quite as far.
Yesterday, Dr. Bricks, during the presidential news conference, got some flack for the female Dr. Bricks. Got some flack for, I think she was suggesting something about the timetable, and that she seemed to be a little softer on precautions to some people. But we had a question from Facebook while you were talking, and I hadn't seen what she said today, if she said anything, but this Facebook person said, Dr. Bricks was talking about the models being adjusted now that we have more data. The amount of deaths may not be nearly as bad as original models. What do you think? And that's coming from this Facebook questioner.
And I think in researching some of that before even hearing that question, I've seen some of those other suggestions, and they're applying one equation to the entirety of our population, like in the United States, so 330 or 350 million people. So you got to apply different equations to different parts of the country or different concentrations of population. So when you apply the worst equation to 350 million it looks really bad. When you apply the worst, when you apply the worst equation to New York, to New Jersey, to New Orleans, then yeah, those probably are true and they're probably not good. But if you apply it to Pensacola, Florida, it's not the same. So you have to apply a different equation, and that's where those numbers drop down. So I think globally, it's not wise to say, yep, here's the U.S.'s number, boom, done.
Well, I
So
think
that's kind of what she's leaning to.
my concern is that I'd rather be too cautious than not cautious enough. Until we know what the heck is going on, I think we should all be pretending like it's happening, and
oh yeah,
within reason. We've been shut down. You doing remote officing for this is the second week, and we're still able to meet with clients when we need to. We're still able to do the things we need to do. Of course, we can't go to court right now. But when the courthouse is reopened, we're not going to miss a beat here as far as the work that's going on here. But it seems like to me that, if you can work remotely, that you should be doing that until this is done. So that's just where I think things should be. But what do I know? I'm just a lawyer, right?
Well, I think the way I interpret and I didn't see her direct comments, but the way I interpret what you had mentioned is I don't think backing off on any precautions or anything like that. I think it's just they're starting to say, are we really going to end up applying these mass casualty type situations to every single pocket of the country? Probably not. Some are going to be bad, so I agree with that.
Yeah, what I think she said was something like the doctors I've spoken to say everything is okay right now. It's nearing a critical stage, but they actually feel like they're well supplied right now. And I think that was a little bit out of step, or whatever she said, close to that, was a little bit out of step with what some of the other doctors are saying in those areas in New York and in New Orleans, where they're running out of stuff and they're running out of respirators and people are using trash bags for PPE. So, but in any event, thank you for giving us that information, Dr. Malone. And
I want to add one other thing, I guess,
sure.
on a high note. So one good bit of news is there's 2 test centers or 2 test sites in the country where they're starting the trials on the vaccine. And there was one before today, I guess maybe yesterday, and they announced the second one today, and it's in Emory and Atlanta. So the other one is in Seattle. So there's 2 trials going on.
What does the vaccine consist of? Do we know what it's made up of?
Well, it's ideally something that would initiate an immune response where the members of the trial would generate antibodies against the virus.
Oh, so they're giving a piece of the virus to these people to see if it builds the antibodies.
Yeah, I haven't read enough of it I don't even think that they're disclosing if they're doing active, inactive, or not. But they may be doing a couple of different ones and not telling because they don't want to bias the study.
Right.
But anyhow, so they are enrolling people 18 to 55 years old, phase 1 clinical trial, and
wow.
The one in Atlanta is you have to be local to the area, and they have a call out for people. They're looking for candidates to participate in this. So
they're getting healthy people. Healthy people are just volunteering to do this. Wow.
Yes, healthy adult volunteers. So again, I've said this before. Like historically, like this is interesting to me. I hate that we're doing it in this setting, but historically to see this kind of stuff going on, talking to like my grandparents, they talked about polio, and that's what this is kind of like. So if you step back and look at it that way, it's interesting, but I wish we didn't have to talk about it. And then
that is a good point.
Yeah, and then lastly, the only other thing I wanted to mention, and this is I guess a grim stat, coupled with a good stat, is we as a country surpassed 100,000 positive tests today. But on that same note, we're also testing 100,000 a day.
Wow.
So equate that to a football.
How many local test centers do we have in Pensacola? We have the Baptist affiliated
3.
one. So where's the third one? In Gulf Breeze or where?
No, so there's the in order. They're from Sacred Heart, and then Brownsville Community Center. That was by the Community Health put that on, and then Baptist started there. So those 3. And then Gulf Breeze/Baptist have started the first and only one in Santa Rosa, and it's affiliated with, I guess, Gulf Breeze Hospital and Baptist Hospital over there. So there's one in Santa Rosa County now, and that's the Baptist initiative. So locally, I would say 4 in our two county area.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Dr. Malone. Appreciate it very much. We'll be back. Unless something happens over the weekend, we'll probably not do one of these over the weekend. But if something big happens locally, we might do one. If not, we'll be back Monday with another update. We'll have probably a lot of information because this stuff breaks. The viruses don't stop for the weekend, unfortunately. So we'll have more information. We'll have 3 days worth of information on Monday to share. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If heaven forbid, if you're involved in some kind of accident over the weekend and you need somebody to give you some advice, you're welcome to contact us on the web at zarzaurlaw.com, or you can call me, of course, 855-HIRE-JOE. There's a way to get to my cell phone through that switchboard. You just have to press a combination of numbers. They tell you how to do that. And myself or another lawyer at the firm will talk to you hopefully in that phone call. All right. Y'all take care. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday.